before they responded, we received a credible tip with respect to Dean Strampel, which we felt to be time sensitive. And as a result of that, we issued a search warrant for those items that I mentioned earlier and took them. And based on that, the investigation began at that point.
Now, for more reaction on this story, we turn to Rachael Denhollander. She was the first survivor to speak out publicly against Larry Nassar, and she's now the lead plaintiff in the lawsuit against Michigan State University. She joins me now on Skype from Louisville, Kentucky. Rachael, thank you for being with us. So what was your first reaction when you heard William Strampel had been arrested?
You know, I'm grateful to see justice being done, but I can't say I'm surprised. Dean Strampel's conduct through the entire Larry Nassar debacle was absolutely abhorrent. The fact that he could mock my video testimony, the fact that he could allow Nassar to return to clinical duties during an active police investigation, during a Title IX investigation in 2014, those were some very serious red flags that there was something deeply wrong in the culture at MSU. And I think we've just scratched the surface of it.
So when you're talking about those red flags, you were certainly the person who raised the first one in regards to Larry Nassar. Now, as we're seeing with the arrest of MSU's former dean, do you think this is an institutional problem within the university? You've touched on that. What more needs to be done?
At this point, the entire leadership at MSU, the board of trustees and the current president needs to go. And the reason that that needs to happen is because they've had 18 months to disclose this information. They had all of the time that these warnings were in Dean Strampel's file to deal with this information. And instead, MSU Board of Trustees and the current president have chosen to lie about the survivors. They've chosen to attack our motivations. They've chosen to claim that we are ambulance chasers looking for a payday. President Engler actually appeared before the Michigan Senate committee last week, and he lied about our legislative reform. He lied about our motivations. He lied about why we're in litigation with MSU. And because they have chosen this path, at this point, they've demonstrated they're not capable of dealing honestly with the problems at MSU, and we need new leadership.
How frustrating was it for you feeling that this was so deep or such a wide web that was involved in protecting Larry Nassar? And as you came forward, watching sort of all of the chips fall now and the investigation turn up new information, how frustrating has this been for you to watch, knowing that some of this was happening all along?
It's been incredibly frustrating and I would say more painful and deeply concerning than anything else. Because what we've all had to wrestle with as survivors is that it wasn't just our abuser we couldn't trust. We couldn't trust anyone at that institution, and we still cannot trust anyone at that institution. And that should terrify everyone that's at MSU, that's considering sending their children there, that's considering being part of that program, because they're not changing. They're refusing to change at every possible turn, and that's a terrifying prospect.
Now, we know tomorrow, looking ahead to the next day here, lawyers for MSU will be in court to argue that the lawsuits, one that you are a part of, should be dismissed. Will this have any effect on the lawsuits?
You know, I don't think anything at this point is having effect on what MSU has chosen to prioritize. While this is news to so many people that didn't have inside information, what was in Dean Strampel's file and his conduct is not news to MSU. It was there all along. They chose their legal strategy. They chose to side with abusers. They chose to side with enablers. They chose to attack and lie about the victims for 18 months, knowing this information was there.
And finally, we want to ask you, at the end of the day, what change are you hoping to see come out of all of this?
On a cultural level, a much greater cultural awakening as to what it means to be an enabler of sexual abuse, a willingness to speak out against one's own community, because that's what we really need in order to protect our children, and a message being sent that this will not be tolerated any longer, not just the sexual abuse of children, but the covering up of the sexual abuse of children. Time is up.
Rachael, we thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Rachael Denhollander was the first person to speak up publicly against Larry Nassar and is one of the lead plaintiffs suing Michigan State University. She joined us via Skype from Louisville, Kentucky. Thank you.